evidence versus what a person says and the measurable outcomes, and what's the difference. I'm Jason for AwakenedEssence.com. In this website I make awakening measurable. If you choose to use those measurement sticks I give you, you can literally use a ruler. Are you aware of your hands, your pelvic floor, your tummy? You're aware of the aliveness of your body and any aches and pains, any emotions, high emotions, Feel your pelvic floor, get under them. This is what your neurology is for. Learn how to drive it, because your neurology is 100% linked to your awakening. When you activate your neurology properly, you are whole brain, whole neurology. Neurology here, neurology down the nerve, the spine, every nerve, and as much neural matter is here in your solar plexus as there is up here. And up here, of course, is the brain stem and the limbic system, which is all formed before you're 7 years old, which is why it plays such a major role. So when you master your neurology and everything's working properly, and the laws of the unconscious mind, in NLP they're called the prime directives, when you restore presence as the default habit, your neurology naturally will reside there. Your neurology will fall back to that as the default reaction when stuff happens in life, be it good or bad. Be it good or bad. Do you practice presence when you're feeling good? Most people don't. You know, I've watched and observed and talked to people for 17 years on this. It's called gliding. So that's the good stuff. What about the bad stuff? This is how it's measurable. So I'm going to give you some statistics of what I've noticed over the last 17 years when it comes to awakening and who says they're awake and all that sort of stuff. Okay? So the phases of awakening. People have awakenings. Phase 1 with Adyashanti, or I call it phase 2. Phase 1 is you're not even looking. So phase 1 you're looking, or phase 2 for me is you've had awakenings. You've obviously had something. You have a calling. You've probably had some sort of God experience or unity experience, be it with a relationship, animals, just a flash of inspiration, or you had a cosmic things happen. There's a million different types of oneness experiences you can have. Some of them are pretty damn amazing. And you'll feel quite shattered afterwards, and you'll lose them and you'll want them back. So that's an awakening. If you can't have it that fast, then it's gone, eh? That's the evidence. So let's stick to evidence. Awakenings. So when you do that and you do your presence practice and you come into the next phase, non-abiding. This is Adyashanti's term. End of your world CD, book, course, soon to be blockbuster movie. I'm being silly. Right. Non-abidance is you will have cycles of it's really good and your practice is good and your connection is easy. And when your connection is easy, often people go into glide and don't practice. I've just talked about that. Right. Then you'll go through the hard cycle where you really have to do your hands, bum, pelvic floor, tummy, sometimes for hours until you get your presence back because you've had an argument or crap's running, right? You're having to grind. In the non-abiding phase, you will have periods where your practice is easy and then it's hard. And your connection is strong and your presence is tangible, your inner body is very tangible in a lot of situations in life, and others it isn't. Right? So if you're monitoring and you're self-honest and you're doing your success journal, presence diary, you can write this down, look at the boot camp page, how to boot camp yourself. It's brutal. It's brutal. I use the word brutal. It's brutal. You will see how much you're not present. But it builds, okay? There's a process here. It is brutal. But it unfolds, and this is how it happens. This is how it's mathematical, right? So, the first half of non-abiding, you kind of don't lose it, but it's also kind of a memory, and it's also a lot more mindy. You can go into bliss. You can create bliss. You can go into a bliss samadhi for 6 months easily with your third eye. A lot of people do this and they claim to be awake. I did this for 6 months. I thought I was awake and I had a teacher say, "You're in your head, it's not real." I did that crap for 12 years. I'm very nuanced at creating bliss and samadhis and all sorts of stuff. Going into the higher mind, third eye, higher mind and bliss body, and connecting out there with the fairies and the angels. It's not incarnate, which is why we practice the body, so you anchor it in here. Angels will come into you. Well, no, they won't come into you, but when you're in here, they're easier to be in touch with if you like angels. They talk to me. They're on the wall. They're here in this room, actually. So, esoteric stuff, that's another story that's really important, and that's why that is also on this website. So, being aware of your pelvic floor in your hands. First half of non-abiding. You don't kind of lose it. It's kind of always here. And you keep taking out the trash, right? There's still lots of work taking out the trash. Right? You're having to do lots of emotional work. You will hold your presence with some emotions and not with others. Okay? The lighter emotions, you can probably hold your presence with sadness and grief. And that's when you dive in. The core of sadness and grief is this most beautiful sweetness when you really dive in and feel and have the tears, and that's when you actually have the big breakthrough with that stuff. Okay, so but the harder stuff like the anger and the fiery emotions and terror, strong trauma responses, you won't have your presence. As you go into the second half of the non-abiding phase, you'll get better at holding these emotions, you'll get better at holding your presence, you'll get better at doing the basics of the practice that I talk about in every video, while emotions are running. So as soon as fear, anger, sadness, guilt, anxiety, all of them, you will knee-jerk and start practicing. So can you be aware of your hands, your backside, your pelvic floor, your tummy, your breathing, your feet? Are you aware of the energies inside of your body, which is in a body? Are you aware of the subtler, more allowance, presence, allowing things to be, which is a bigger space that holds all of those spaces? Can you get that bigger space that holds all of these other spaces at the same time while your head's chattering, hello, me, 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 me? Feel your pelvic floor. Get that far away from your head. Physical. You are 3D, you are in time, your attention is in time, so you are no time. There is no time, but it requires time and attention application. You are the doer, it is a doing, even when you are blazingly enlightened. Because if you're not attentive to it, you're not experiencing it, therefore it's not real. Yes, unconsciously it's always there for those that are abiding, which is the next phase. So, second half of non-abiding, you get better with your emotions, your practice, your actual remembering to practice in work and driving and socializing and arguments throughout the day, sitting on the toilet, all these activities, you will be remembering to actually take yourself methodically through the steps I keep talking about. The 4 steps, well, at least the 3 steps. Body, inner body, which includes energy stuff, right? Energy healing, golden ray. That'll help, it's amazing. Right? Check out that page, there's the attunement there. Because that's what you're paying for, you're getting the videos and everything for free. Right? The attunement. Energy. It's not physical, you can't see it, but I can feel it. You will have that with you through most of your day. Your practice will be good, and if you're doing your success journal, boot camping, you will write it in your diary. 9 out of 10 today, 7 out of 10 today, I had a crap day, 3 out of 10. We're rating it, it doesn't matter what the numbers are, it's the habit of focusing, and it's reinforcing the habit because it's training your neurology. It's training your person, your ego, your separation mechanisms. I'm using all of these words on purpose. Yourself with the small s. It's undoing the psychology so you can open up to everything. Who you are, your soul, spirit, everythingness, and the nothingness, the void, which is before everything, before your soul, before your spirit, before the universe. The void, right? But you're anchoring this in your body, which is why I do the lower half of the torso predominantly to get you out of your nut head, okay? So non-abiding, this stuff gets better and better and better, and your practice is relentless. It is now easier because you're in the second half of the non-abiding phase, and you've got those good cycles where it is really easy, but you keep the conscious practice going. You are a doer. The person on the driver's license is the attention chooser. You are attention, and I just point here because, head, mind, where do you look? Your eyes are here. Golden Ray 2, you get an amazing eye initiation. Oh, wow. Anyway, so the noise, the thoughts, we hear the words in our head. Hopefully, if you hear them out there, that's a DSM-4 indicator, isn't it? So the voice that's in here that's yours, not those ones. Focus on this one, focus on you, in your body. Okay? Non-abiding, you are here. Your practice is really, really good. And you see the improvements, and then life things happen, and you notice your presence practice kicks in faster. You do those steps, 1, 2, 3. Body, inner body, presence, and you will get glimpses, and the glimpses will grow of the nothingness. Somewhere in there, you may have had them even when you first started your search. They do happen. I had hundreds of them actually. Very traumatic, because you just go, you're everything, and then you're back in a body and you're a broken person. Very traumatic. Scary. But that ignited the passion and the intensity that you see here. So that will build. Your presence practice is really awesome throughout your day. 7 out of 10 minimum, if you were to rate it. Yes, that's a head process. You are rating it. You're being honest, giving yourself feedback. Or you have a coach like me, and we can discuss it. Because you will speak it accidentally, and people will get annoyed if you say stuff that indicates, well, that's not even abiding, or not abiding, is it? That's entry, basic entry stuff. The feedback is always there. That was just one day. So today you can be better, and you will have this. You will cycle. Cycles happen. So you go into the non-abiding phase, and if you really stick at it, it's not too long, then something will happen. An awakening, a death experience, or maybe you just slip and the nothingness becomes a lot more stable, and it's always here. And we can look like your cut tollies, we do that. And I can do the giggle. Right. It's called the awakened giggle. It really does, because that's how it feels. Okay? It's always here. And the steps I talk about, body, inner body, the subtler presency thing, and maybe if you're really lucky at times you'll glimpse, and for varying milliseconds, or varying milliseconds, or varying minutes, or maybe even half an hour if you're really lucky, or maybe a couple of days if you're really, really lucky, you might experience the nothingness in varying degrees. Then that will grow once you're fully abiding. And when you get to that point where this presence just seems to be here, and that the going to your body and your inner body was just like that, a priori, that's the Latin word for pre-existing. And Nisargadatta and other teachers talk about it. It's just here. It is here before. As soon as I think there, the questioner asked Nisargadatta about beliefs. He goes, as soon as I notice it, it's gone. Because it's contained in the presence, and beliefs are containers for the uncertainty. And that's Adyashanti's definition. I love it. What is a belief? It's a container for uncertainty. When the knowingness is here, beliefs vanish. Although there's still a habit, they're a program in your unconscious, so you may revisit them a number of times, and you just be present with them until they're gone. You may need to do the emotional work with it if there's emotions and there's stuff inside your conception through to 28, 30, 45, however old you are. You'll human stuff, you'll still need to process that, but it will happen in presence, and it will happen faster. Being aware of your pelvic floor, your hands, your tummy, your sternum, body parts. Now, you can relate those to chakras if you want. Stick with the body parts, please. Anchor it in your neurology, turn your neurology on so you can really embody this stuff and carry it in life, okay? This is the goal. Take this into the world. Take this into the workplace. Take this into the corporate world. Wherever you are. If you're a prison warden, wouldn't this be amazing? Take it into a bank if you work in a bank. Yeah? Serve humanity truly. So, non-abiding to abiding is, it's here instantaneously, it's always here. Maybe a bit thin to start with. And again, with practice, you will notice the nuances. Yeah, that it's here. It feels a little bit lighter, it's not as tangible. And you've also got to be really, really careful. Measurability. Really, really careful. You're not just doing a memory on yourself. Or doing a mental body on yourself. Creating it in your head. How do you know you're not making it up in your head? Well, are you feeling your pelvic floor fully? Are you feeling that nothingness, that joy, the happiness and all these other things? And they happen later, so I've forgotten what it's like to be lost, so I'm trying to put it into your experience. But I can't. I just can't do it. It's been too long. It will be more anchored. It's not just a... So the consistency becomes very obvious over weeks, months. That it's always here, and this the actual more drudgery process, the hard yakka practice of being not awake until you are abidingly awake. Enlightened is what I would define as enlightened. So that's what I'm talking about here. You may have your own definition. You're welcome to that. But the presence, the stillness is here with you. The nothingness might not even be here with you at that point. That's once you've fully matured in the abiding phase. Minimum 5 to 20 years according to Ajahn. Took me 5, I would agree. Minimum 5, even if you're in coaching. Because you've got to keep, the same process happens, it's just at a different level. So that's the abiding phase. It's always here, a priori, and the practice does die. But it is about vigilance. Let's be clear about this. The abiding phase, if you want to mature it and keep clearing out the bad habits of your neurology, your unconscious mind, your brainstem, your amygdala, all your childhood stuff, your DNA lineage from the last 100 generations, your collective pain body stuff or collective consciousness, by then you've wiped out the pain body, but your collective consciousness of your country and your culture. If you're consciously here, you will notice, I'm standing at a red traffic light and there's no cars for a kilometre. Why am I standing here waiting? And I could just walk across the road. You might get fined for jaywalking, but you're aware of the cultural things. Do I play the game just to keep everybody happy, or do I be myself and I want to get across the road because I'm going to go and catch a bus or whatever, okay? But you're aware of that. You are present here. That's just an example of a collective belief. That's another video. So abidance is always here. It will deepen. You have the vigilance. You are aware of that. Unconsciously, you have trained your neurology. You have trained your unconscious to be here and to keep coming back here, noticing body, physical body, inner body, presence. There you go, there's that giggle again. All right. It feels good and it stays with you. This is how you know. And it becomes more and more tangible as it sinks, and it becomes more and more solid. It incarnates. ascension is incarnating in here. The ascended masters mastered all of this in their body, so when the body vanishes in a puff of light, like it did for the seventh patriarch Enoch, who's now ascended master Metatron, he's on the wall, right? Or Jesus, third day in the cave, he was puff gone, right? He ascended the physicality into light. This is esoteric stuff. That is also relevant, but I'm sticking to the jnana, the wisdom path here in this video. As you deepen, it incarnates more in the body, so the keynotes of your awakening change. When you've been in the abiding phase long enough and it has matured, to use Adyashanti's words, settled is another one of his words. It's settled in life. You can be a normal human being and be functional. You can have a corporate job. You can work in a corporate loaded bully bleh, environment and keep your presence very, very solid throughout your day. I did that in 2016 for 10 months in a very toxic environment in a huge mega billion-dollar Australian company where we had a really serial bully as our GM. Everybody was terrified of this guy. He had a go at me. He didn't get a great response from me, that's for sure. I just learned to stay out of his way because I liked having money to pay rent. So you become a human, but you hold this non-stop in every environment, and it's measurable to the degree to which you hold, and the solidness for which, and the incarnateness by which you hold this in each instance. Again, measurable. So there'll be a list of things here from easy to hard. Have you done it once? The first time you hold anger, strong anger, and you're yelling at someone with anger because they need it, you know, when you have that one and you hold your presence, it's like losing your virginity. It really is. It's that good. You will remember it. It does happen. And then after that, it might not happen for another 10 times, but that's probably the mid non-abiding onwards where you'll get that. You might get it earlier. Everybody's different, all right? But when you can hold anger and notice that your presence and your stillness and you are bodily aware as the anger is coming through and you're piping hot mad, and you can do that 4 times out of 5 because you're putting it in your diary, right? You have the evidence written down for you, and it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. It's for you. All I can do as a teacher is ask you for the evidence. I have to believe what you say. Although I can feel it energetically anyway if I'm with you, if I'm tuned in. And I only do that if it's a proper session. Respect of boundaries. All right? You'll have the measurable evidence. This is real for me. Doesn't matter what other people think. Once, and then consistency. You will get better at holding these strong emotions. They will come through. Emotions are a messenger. What is it trying to tell you? The emotions have different messages. I talk about that at Student Success Tutor under the emotion page. They have messages. What's the messenger? Anger is something needs to change. Something isn't what it should be. Anything from a desire through to major violation, major safety, whatever. So there's a variety. It might just be you had an expectation of something and it didn't happen and then you fly off the handle. Well, I'd say there's some crap that you need to look at. Right? That crap may be coming through your system and it might be related to something your auntie did 15 lifetimes ago. Right? The genetics and the carryover, or something that happened when you're in the womb. Okay? Doesn't really matter. So it came through. What is it? Go and clear it. Be present. Be aligned. So your human stuff still continues. Once you're awakened and enlightened, again, spiritual myth, chuck the myths out, get clear. You know what you're measuring now because I'm defining it clearly for you if you want to measure it, if you want to be self-honest, and if you want to know for yourself how this is working. And you measure it by its stability, its depth, its repetition, the habit. Is it here now? And that now is you learn that habit, you train your neurology, prime directives of the unconscious. Presence is my default state. I like it here because all of my neurology is here, and that means I'm fully resourceful. I speak this in non-spiritual language at studentsuccesstutor.com because it is neurology linked as well. So you have access to all your resources, regardless how bad life is or what nasty stuff has just happened to you or anyone around you. And it's measurable for you because you know it's here and you're feeling it and you're activated as that while your person deals with the situation. Measurable. There's no fluff here. None. No vagues. No vagaries. No, there is no doer. No, there is, you can't talk about it. I can talk about it. So you can talk about it. There are things here that you will go through and you will master. First ray is definitely coming through. The will of God. And I don't mean that as God, I mean as in like, this is clear. These are the rules. These are measurable if you want to be self-honest, if you want to believe vague, fluffy stuff. When you get hit by a car, you won't remain present. If you practice this stuff, you train your neurology, you anchor your awakening in your body. When you get hit by a car, you will remain present and it will be your life-saving. It will stop you going into physical shock. You will be able to function. You will be able to behave like a normal person. You'll be able to talk to the humans and all the broken things around. You will most probably be bleeding and various other things, and you will be functional. And your presence, your space, your aliveness will be there with you tangibly. This is measurable. I had that experience on the 23rd of May, 2018. There's a video on that. Life dishes up stuff. Are you present? Is your instant reaction to come into presence. This is how you, sometimes you will, sometimes you won't. Sometimes it's deep, sometimes it's shallow. So once you've been through the abiding phase, the enlightened phase, after a certain amount of time, it does mature and it's very stable. You'll start forgetting what it's like to be non-abiding and lost, like most people are. You will assume they feel what you feel. They don't. I still do it. I can't help it. It's my experience now. Then you might go into the transpersonal phase. Now that is divine will, that's grace-based. That's what Phoenix healing is, that's where it came from. And the top teachers on this planet operate from that place. Yep. So that goes into the Advanced Awakening page, which I wrote in 2:15. Needs a big update. Maybe I have done an update by now when you're seeing this, but it's very hard to explain in normal language. Now, when you go transpersonal, because you are the nothing, you are the everything, consciously as you are this neurology, obviously your own body, these other things, other people, other places, you can sense them, feel them, and it's like they are you. But because you have a clear sense of what you are, the nothingness, your personality can still function. But it is a test, it takes a long time to get used to, and you will spend many months, years, adjusting to that. So when you go into a corporate-loaded bully environment, a bully-loaded corporate environment, or whatever workplace, or whatever society, or club, or pub, or supermarket, you hold your marbles together, and you function, and you stay connected, and you choose not to connect to that other stuff, the lower stuff, the human stuff. You're aware of it, but you know it's not you the person, but you're still connected with it. So awakening goes down. The initial awakenings are very mindy, third eye, crown. It's upper mental body. A lot of people are stuck in there, and they swear black and blue there's no doer, and it's all this, that and the other. They're not. It's not real. So in the last 17 years with the people I've met, the hugest majority that claim they're awake are at best in that place. A lot of them are just lost in their mind. It's just mental garbage, and the ego's done them over. They don't like listening to this sort of stuff, so they would have switched off by now from this video. They will talk about bliss and all that sort of stuff. They create it in their head. How do you know it's real or not? Is it in here? Is it anchored in here like I keep talking about? That's why I say, it's a 25-minute free chat. Let's talk about it. And let's see if coaching is for you. A proper coaching session, I will tune into you properly. I'll give you the feedback. I'll be able to feel it. Well, actually, in a chat, if you were genuinely awake, abiding, or even non-abiding, mid-non-abiding, it impacts me. The bliss just goes pshing because I shine off your light. So you can tell, I can tell, it has a very good effect on me. I get in a group of nice people that are all practicing with good intention. The silly smile creeps across my face and I look like I'm... Okay? Because it resonates. When two or more gather in my name, I shall be there. That's what it means. That's what coaching's about. Is it incarnate? So from the third eye awakening, mind crown awakenings, as you embody it and you come into abidance, you may actually have it up here. I know a number of people that are got this level of awakening. Yeah, they have stillness, they have clarity, they know that it's always here, and they can come into it instantly, and they can have stuff like accidents and stay functional, but they're not really in here, and that's very obvious to me because I'm transpersonal with it. I feel it, and they can't relate to stuff when I say this sort of stuff about feeling it. They don't get it because they're not in here. Their neurology, this is your radar, this is your Wi-Fi internet device. So if you're not in here, you're not going to connect to the planet, you're not going to connect to animals, you're not going to connect to their soul, their presence, because those wires aren't active. So you come into the heart, there's that love thing, or just unconditional love. You can unconditionally love a tweeting, lying President of the United States. You can feel that agape, unconditional love yumminess, and still realise, the world would be best served if he was not president. Okay? He was doing a great job at showing us stuff. That's his blessing. Wonderful. Do you want to see it? And the question is, do I behave like him? So this is where the self-honesty is really important, because that guy lacks it big time, eh? Unless you're a Trump supporter, in which case I've just annoyed you. This is why we have world icons. I talk about Roger Federer. Well, we can talk about the Dalai Lama or Nelson Mandela, Jacinda Ardern, Barack Obama, Nice role models. So the development of your personality and your human mechanism may keep track with your awakening. It may not. Your person is your person. I am me. Things I do piss people off. Things I do piss me off. Genetics. Stuff you experience in the womb. Because when you are in the womb, you are everything. When you're a baby, you are the parents. That's why babies react the way they do. Everything is their fault, you know. Parents break up when you are 5 years old. Everybody will tell the counsellor when they're 5 years old, it's my fault, Mummy and Daddy are breaking up. I'm guilty. It's my fault. That's what you do unconsciously, because they're the prime directors of the unconscious. It takes everything personally. It is everything. So your neurology reflects who you are as a spirit. So we train it with the presence practice and the inquiry and being present with your crap. So it opens up and falls away, and then you deepen more and more and more, and you incarnate more and more and more. So you go from the mind and you sink down, you come into here. And then you keep deepening and you come into solar plexus. Now this is where the keynote changes. It becomes joy. No, not joy, happiness. Joy is sacral. So you come down and then there's the root. What do you think that feels like? You're very rooted, very connected. And yes, it can feel like that as well at times. If you catch the drift. Right? Very solid. Down. The nothingness video, I talk about first dan or black belt, first dan, fourth dan. These take time because you are customizing, you're training your neurology, you're training your personality, and I'm calling it a personality, call it what you want, your psychology. Your psychological stuff undoes. And I'm about to bust another myth here. That probably should be in another video, and I'll do another video on it anyway, because maybe you haven't got this far in the video, but you might watch that other one. Right? This journey in this body being your body, is very extensive and it's very complex, and I'm keeping this stuff basic. But when you are in the womb, you are everything. But you are 1 cell, 2 cell, 4 cell, 8 cell, 16 cell, and those first 16 are sacred geometry, and there's all sorts of stuff that goes on in there. But you are your parents. You have their lineage. Mum, dad, right? You carry their DNA. Those 4 proteins that make up your DNA carry memory, carry habits, your genes, whether your hair falls out or not, all that stuff. Carries trauma, carries past life garbage that will feel personal, but it's not yours, and that will come up. And if you have trauma in the womb and your brain is growing, it's going to affect your brain development. And this is neuroscience, this is fact. So this stuff's stored in the reptilian part of the brain, the very core part of your brain, and in the heart. And the heart nerves. There's a number of, and I don't know the real names for them, there's heart nerves in there that live as long as you do. They don't actually die and replace. Brain cells die and replace. The heart nerves don't. Once they're dead, you're dead, because the heart stops. They're holding that memory from what was in the womb. This affects your fight-flight response, your amygdala, your brainstem, your all of that stuff in there. Also your ventricles, the cerebrospinal fluid, that has all sorts of fancy functions. I'm not going to go into that here, but very, very important. Very important. So you may be blazingly awake, You might still have these things happen. I've just had a really strong episode of it, and it's been quite profound, and it's showing the importance to me of the esoteric side of stuff, the phoenix healing and other stuff. Your esoteric structures do exist, your various energy bodies do exist, and because you're present and you're allowing it, it's just like, oh yeah, but maybe you need a tune-up. Everybody needs tune-ups. It's just how you get them, that's the point. So you may need help. And when you cross over those things and get those things sorted, you will deepen again. I'm not in a t-shirt and a cap today, am I? Or a sweaty, a hoodie. Big shift. This stuff is clear and it's important, and if it bugs you, then take a look why. Because when I say you can measure this, I've given you exactness how. Will you use it? Will you practice? Are you practicing now as you feel this video and the energy that's in it? The energy is quite strong. It's very direct. It may feel a bit brutal. First ray. It is brutal. It's the will of God. And I'm not saying I am the will of God either. Let's get clear about that. I'm just bringing the message through. Because that's what it takes. Am I honest enough to take a look? Can I monitor this? Yes, you can. You've heard it now. Come back to this video. Put it in your diary. Watch. Pick some of the things I talk about in this video or the other videos, because I talk about so much stuff. Like, I always talk about too much stuff in videos. Cover too many topics. I've done it again here with this one, but I'm talking about the phases of awakening. I'm upgrading the video that I did back in 2016. This is the jnana path. This is the wisdom path. This is the fastest path. It's got nothing to do with healing systems and Reiki and crystals. And I'm laughing because there is 400 kilo of crystals on the floor in front of me. So what? But that's spiritual stuff. Spiritual stuff is also important, but jnana will bring you home. Presence practice will bring you home. This is measurable. And I've defined it so it is if you want to use it. If you don't want to use it, there's your self-honesty for you. Multiplier of grace, it will take you a lot longer. If you are 100% honest, it's blazingly fast. Nisargadatta did it in 3 years, so compare yourself to him. That's evidence. What do you want? I know what people want. I've done enough workshops on this. I've asked enough groups. I've spoken to enough people to know what people want. Everybody wants to awaken faster than Nisargadatta Maharaj did. The clearest writer on this stuff from last century, apart from Wei Wu Wei, Terence Gray. His book will melt your brain. Amazing. Writing is not my strength. So you will deepen, you will incarnate, you will hold really horrid stuff while you are present, while you hold the nothingness when you get into the deeper layers of abidance, enlightenment. You might have it for glimpses anywhere on these phases, be it not even had awakenings. Well, you will have an awakening, and this might be it. Non-abiding, the first half, first entry, where it's still hard yakka and you go in and out and you're still doing the grind. Mid non-abiding. The grind is easier. You've done the bulk of the work. Your neurology is starting to train. You are starting the habit, unconscious habit. Prime directives of the unconscious is starting to undo and take you back to that place of innocence, the child. Return to innocence means just that. But you are returning to innocence with your name, your personality, your ego, your character, your uniqueness is embodying into the presence, and under that, the nothingness that is all creation, consciously as a symbiotic thing. The no-doer and the doer, the no-doer, the universe, and you function like this. And you can still have amygdala attacks and go into trauma and all that sort of crap and have this. in unity at the same time. Your head will not understand it. My head does not understand it. Heading towards 12 years now again of abidance. Measurable abidance. It's got all the diaries that prove it for me. Don't care if you believe me or not. Right? You are your own guru. Are you willing to be honest? Are you willing to collect the evidence? Are you willing to use a system that is evidence-based? It's all a choice. Free will. The nothingness doesn't give a toss whether you do it or not. Well, I would prefer you did, so we can help this planet and help everybody, you know, if we were to share this, because the nothingness is everybody else. This is the dichotomy, eh? It's great stuff. Come home to this. It's up to you. It's your habit. It's your conscious choice. It's your practice routine. Is this your desire? Is this your motivation? Therefore, are you putting your attention there, and are you applying your time, your attention, and your resources? Make contact if you want to really rock at this and get some specifics. The coaching is cheap, really, for someone of this clarity is just crazy. How's your presence been during this video? Feel your pelvic floor. Jeepers. See, people look at other people and they can't tell. You look at pictures of Nisargadatta and he's fiery. Rawr. You know, it's easy to look at a photo of Ramana and it's like, or Eckhart Tolle. Could you ever imagine Eckhart Tolle, what his face would look like if he's angry? It's like having a garden gnome trying to be angry. This doesn't work, does it? How's your presence? Is it still here? Has this helped? If there is something here that doesn't, you know isn't right, please send me an email or drop a comment if this is somewhere on Facebook or whatever. Be clear. How is this not correct? How is the neurology not linked? How is it not an incarnation? How is it not your neurology and being present in every situation? How can you not measure that? If that, you know. Everybody is an armchair specialist. As in, you know, anybody that's played tennis up to high school will sit in their chair and say Roger Federer did this, but you're not Roger Federer and you're not at his level. Everybody can do this with Awakening, and a lot of people do. What's the evidence? What's your evidence? How many trophies do you have on your table about tennis to tell how Roger just stuffed up, or Serena or Djokovic or whoever, or any other spiritual teacher, unless you've got those trophies? And it's in a trophy. It's evidence-based. Check out the list of items in terms of difficulty. The order of them may shift, but it depends on each instance how bad it was and what was also going on. Whether you held your presence or not. Have you done it once? Have you done it the last 4 times out of 5? Or is it just now, you know, after hundreds of experiences, it's here. Undeniable. So there's the evidence, there's the levels of awakening. It need not take long. How you train your neurology, how you reset your neurology is based around a number of things. Practice, good company, coaching, going and seeing local teachers that are actually awakened. And they may talk rubbish. Doesn't matter if they talk rubbish. Even non-dual rubbish. Even if they're Hindu teachers and you don't like what they say. The best teachers on this planet are the Hindu ones. They blaze hugely. They may talk stuff that doesn't seem relevant, but by God, wow. Sadhguru Jaggi Vasudev, Amma the Hugging Saint, she has her teaching. She doesn't talk about presence. She talks about the Hindu stuff, the Shiva stuff. Sri Shakti Amanarayani, Cosmic Mother incarnate in a man's body. Narayani, Pedam, Valor. Off the chart. Hello. Amma's here. These beings embody this stuff, but they teach what they teach. Their vibration is that, which is huge, hugely huge. Can you feel it? Can you feel them? Have you been in their company? So go and see these other teachers, Eckhart, Ajahn, Gangaji, Saint Matt, all these other ones. They all feel different. Do they carry that vibe? And if they speak in a way that doesn't match for you, and they say, give me your delusion, I'm always right, then, you can chuck that. What's the evidence for me with my practice? That's why I will never do the guru thing. I'll teach you this stuff, up to you if you want to measure it. Because if you're measuring it, then you know, for you, it's in your diary. You don't need to tell people. When you enter the abiding phase, there's a whole journey there. So I heard Adyashanti's End of Your World 6 months into, I was already abiding. I was still very confused. It was all weird. It is quite a challenging time, and I'd practiced my way to present. This is why you practice. You prepare yourself. You're undoing your psychology, so when it happens, you can handle it. So I was working, I moved to Australia within 4 months of hitting the abiding phase, and I went back into the full-on corporate world, like Melbourne style, nothing like New Zealand. The small boys over there, big boys over here. All the companies over here own all the companies over there. Fortune 500 company within 2 weeks, full-on blazing presence and bliss while in the job. It's like, whoa, this is what I envisioned. And I told my teacher guy at the time, and he told me, and I was an idiot, that even he couldn't do that. And there it was my experience. Abidance in the corporate world. That was my goal. That was my life goal that I'd had for a decade. Embodied it. Embodied it in corporate toxic environments. Mega billion-dollar companies. Corporate rubbish. Ego, ego, ego. Embodied. Unshakable. Evidence-based for me. So when I entered the abiding phase, I didn't acknowledge it to myself for 4 years until it had deepened, because it deepens, it's measurable, becomes more consistent. The nothingness becomes very solid and always here. A priori. Presence is a priori when you go into abidance, and then the nothingness becomes a priori later after you mature. That's the first time I've said that one, but that's true. So in those first 4 years, I didn't acknowledge it to myself because I'd had blazing awakenings and lost them. So I wasn't going to want to have another decade of sheer hell from losing a massive awakening. And if you had awakenings and lost them, you know what I'm talking about, eh? Which is why you'd still be watching now. You've had that. Oh, I want that back. It sucks, doesn't it? When you lose it. This is how you keep it. The practice, the presence, these videos. Do it every video. How's your presence? How's your pelvic floor? How's your hands? Your inner body stuff, the energetics and space, non-dimensional space of presence. Four years of full non-stop abidance before I admitted it to myself, and then 5 years before I admitted it to anybody else. And I started writing the Awakening Defined page that you're looking at now. 2012. And I haven't really changed the language in it. It's a new video. This video, if you're seeing it now. So, Jason Person has gone through process. My integration with that has gone through a process. All teachers, all people mature and go to deeper places. Ajahn has gone through that. deepening and changing how he teaches. How's your presence? How quick can you bring it back? Feel. Notice your hands, pelvic floor. Allow yourself to ground in your body and feel the layers if you can. Can you define them? You will with practice. Can you define them? You will with practice. And if you put it in your journal, you write it, writing with your hand, muscle memory, this device stuff, phones and tablets and online crap, really. Apart from the fact all the big data people watch it and record it. If you put it in your diary, muscle memory. That's why I write out my mentor's session I have with my mentor. I write it out by hand. Because it processes it into physicality in the cells, in the DNA. Feel the presence that you are as much as you can, as often as you can, as frequently as you can. And if you're at your job, no, you can't sit there and just do nothing and get back to your job. When you remember, back to your job, and just build that habit, and it will become more stable. Unconsciously, you settle deeper and deeper and deeper as you go through the layers. And I'm just saying layers, it is levels. To say there is no levels is just someone who doesn't understand this stuff and hasn't lived it. Evidence. Evidence. So enjoy the presence that you are. Enjoy the cycles, the hell ones, the good ones, and notice how much you can just keep your practice going. You've got to be relentless. It's about the practice. Be relentless. Check out the coaching. Make contact. We'll have a chat. Try it out. This is extremely rare clarity you can have personal access to. So I'm Jason for AwakenedEssence.com.